When we try to picture paradise, our very first thought is usually a reunion. We imagine the overwhelming relief of finally seeing the parents, children, or spouses we lost along the way. This expectation makes perfect sense. We live our entire lives in a fragile environment, one defined entirely by physical separation, by ticking clocks, and the constant reality of death. Living under those conditions creates a profound emotional vacuum. It leaves us with the quiet conviction that if these specific people are gone, a permanent void will remain in our hearts forever. Because of that pain, our mental blueprint for heaven is currently built entirely around reversing earthly grief. We rarely stop to consider what eternal gain actually looks like. But stepping into eternity brings a jarring realization. Those deep, vital bonds of marriage and blood that mean everything to us in this life will no longer hold the central place in our hearts. Jesus addressed this directly. He explicitly taught that in the resurrection, people will neither marry nor be given in marriage. The implication here is stark. The ultimate focal point of heaven has never been and never will be another human being. When we try to drag our familiar earthly relationship structures across the threshold of eternity, we misunderstand what it actually means to exist in the presence of the divine. Hearing this often triggers immediate panic, as if letting go of marriage means we become cold or indifferent to each other. But this shift does not mean love disappears. Earthly love is tightly tangled with possession, regret, and anxiety. We hold on aggressively because we live under the constant threat of losing what we have. But heaven operates in an entirely different ecosystem, where the very concept of loss is permanently erased. Without the looming threat of death or separation, the anxious, possessive grip we use to secure human relationships is completely rendered obsolete. What we often interpret as a fear of losing our special family bonds is actually just a fear of shedding our earthly trauma and survival instincts. These limited earthly relationships are not erased. Instead, they are brought into a higher, more complete universal order. Every form of human love is stripped of its earthly restrictions and purified directly by the nature of God. The result is a total absence of suffering over who is or isn't standing beside you, and a complete healing from all the relational grief you carried in the past. Heavenly affection is a vastly expanded capacity for connection. You are no longer restricted by the desperate need to cling to a single person to feel whole. This brings us to the actual central event of paradise. The defining moment is standing in the direct, unmediated presence of the Creator for the first time. At that exact moment, you experience a psychological and spiritual state that is impossible to achieve on earth, lacking absolutely nothing. God Himself becomes your total and complete source of satisfaction, offering a profound peace and ultimate joy that supersedes everything else. Because of this total satisfaction, every human relationship is restored to a healthy, proper place. People are no longer burdened with the impossible task of making each other whole. The true glory of heaven is not finally getting a person back. It is reaching an eternal state where you have an absolutely full heart, with no lack left to fill. We start out wanting to soothe our earthly grief, but the promise of eternity is about finding absolute wholeness. So it leaves us with a stark question. If you truly arrived in eternity today, what would you genuinely long for most? Would you want to see your family again, or to see God with your own eyes? Leave your answer in the comments. Because finding true paradise requires us to confront, and eventually surrender, our deepest earthly attachments to the Creator.